Okay. Okay. We are gonna keep going today. Today is day 9 of the history lessons that Bill Gates absolutely hates. But guess what? The feeling is very much mutual, Bill Gates. I do not consent to anything you want. Anything. Period. No matter what you say, you can open your mouth until the cows come home all day. And I will not consent and will resist. Because you are pretty much Edward Jenner. Okay? And I am the university telling you that you can't pay for your degree. You're going to earn your degree, or you're going to die without one. Wondering why the complexities of life are choking your ambitions. Understand that. Now, day 9. The Small-pox Nurse Fable. Give me a second, guys. I'm using the simple today. Thanks to these Democrats, I'm running low on juice. So, I have a Patreon. I have those things. I don't know, man. YouTube is a good way to make money. These Democrats done shut us down. And they're trying to shoot us down on YouTube, too, because they hate the truth. Okay? Math does not equal science to these people. Their version of it does. They think that they invent new mathematical theories and new scientific models. I got newsflash for you, man. The system exists for you to understand it. You don't make the system. Okay? The system just exists. It is, and it supports all life, and it supports everything. And you cannot make something to replace that. It just is. So, let's keep going. The Small-pox Nurse Fable. Then people say, what about the nurses? Why don't you know that for 50 years there has not been known a single nurse in any smallpox hospital who has taken the smallpox? Who has taken the smallpox because they have been revaccinated, quote unquote. Dr. Corey was responsible for the card, which has been handed for years to mothers who brought their children to the vaccination station, and which serves to stamp this delusion upon the country. Yes, Democrats are all about stamping delusions all over this country. Don't get it twisted. I used to think that they were for the working class and for the small businessman, but Pelosi does not care if we all starve in the street. Bill Gates, I fully believe that he is paying to have these fencing and tenting systems set up so that mass mobs of enraged human beings can be herded like rodeo cattle into these systems of containment and chipped and verichipped and be repeat vaccinated from inside of their own bodies and tracked like produce on a shelf. Is that the kind of world you want to live in, Democrats? Because it's not the kind that I want to. And it's not the kind that I'll stand for or live in. You can have it. You can have all of it, and you can have my share of it too, because no, because science, because math is related to science. Okay, and all of your vaccine bullshit, I'm blowing it up here and now. Been blowing it up. Um, the truth speaks for itself, man. I didn't choose my viewpoint. My viewpoint convinced me. Okay? Just like leftists try to convince you that they're right, but they can't. Because they can't mean. Okay? They can try, but they can't mean. Because they can't science. Because they have feelings. Feelings overrunning their thinking. Like Vulcan before it settled into what it became known as in Star Trek. If you look through the history of Vulcan, they used to be very emotional, very human creatures, and then they discovered what logic would do for them. Instead of allowing themselves to constantly be ruled by their emotions and compulsions for control of others and for the removal of others' free rights, civil rights, rights, and Christian values, Christian-based values. Now, Dr. Corey was responsible for the card, which has been handed for years to mothers who brought their children to the vaccination station, which served to stamp this delusion upon the country. Delusion driven by mass hysteria, because people are still stupid enough to believe these stories about Karachi and the whole list of other hoaxes over my 28 years that Democrats have hoisted on the world and the American public at large. We never believed it, okay? You might have got a few people off the fringes, all hyped up and shit. All the people who think that they're more at risk of contracting your virus. Viruses. Yeah. This delusion upon the country. And when Dr. Corey was before the Royal Commission, this card was brought to his notice. How is it, said he, that it has been published? Is it a fact? He was asked, and the answer was no. Quote unquote. It is not, quote unquote, it is not a fact that nurses who have who have taken smallpox had been revaccinated. Quote unquote. Yes. Quote unquote. Again, quote unquote. How is it that you printed this? Oh, said Dr. Corey. Originally, the card was simply concerning Highgate Smallpox Hospital, and it was the printer. Oh, that naughty printer. Quote unquote. Who deleted the definite article when it ought to be there? Who put an S after the I? Who dropped out 2 capital letters instead of leaving 3? Who scattered the word Highgate and left it as a matter of generalization? See, these leftists don't realize that the use of logic bestows upon a person the faculty of mathematical reasoning. Okay? If I drip juice onto this cotton, which I'm running really low right now. Thank you very much, Democrats. Haven't been able to go to my hall and work because the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, is a scab. And he's worthless to union workers living in New Jersey. All right? Because he's assisted in the hoisting on our lives of this hoax, and this has resulted in the closing down of our educational programs and union halls, wherein we learn how to go out and make money and win and learn a skill for those of us who have had to deal with the situation of fatherlessness. Phil Murphy, you are not pleading the cause of the fatherless. You're a demon rat. You've set yourself in opposition to Trump and aligned yourselves with the satanic cabal of vaccination. Okay? Everything is relative. Don't take our intelligence for granted. Now, that naughty printer. Who scattered the word Highgate and left it as a matter for generalization? In Highgate Smallpox Hospital, I know that whenever it was possible, they got the nurses from the smallpox patients. And the reason these did not have it was because they had had smallpox beforehand. Now, take the nurses in that fever hospital. Dr. Hopwood lately declared that no nurse had died in the fever hospital in London for 10 years. Okay? But they were never vaccinated against fever. And why did they not die? The fact of the matter is this. The Small-pox Nurse Fable is a very absurd one. We know well enough that smallpox has the faculty of taking hold of the weakest. Right? That is the reason why children, whether vaccinated or not, naturally fall the easiest prey. In Gloucestershire, you have practically no vaccinated children to suffer. It depends upon the constitution and the amount of resisting power to the disease. The nurse is a selected person. She will never be likely to be taken on as such unless she is perfectly healthy. Excuse me, guys. See, guys, it's all a scam. Everything the Democrats have done is a scam. Okay? 9/11 was a giant red pill. Okay? Read the Quran, don't let nobody lie to you. Because I don't let nobody lie to me. I always go with my gut. And I read for myself. And I know. Okay? If you went with your gut too, you too would be on the right side of history. You too would be a true academic. Well, that depends. You have to mix your gut brain with your mental brain to be a true academic. But it's always better to go with your gut. Let me just not ruin that statement right there. Anyway, unless she is perfectly healthy. As I said, she is frequently taken from the ranks of the smallpox patients, but otherwise is perfectly healthy. She has good food, regular exercise. She works in a well-ventilated ward. Amid what is more, she has no fear, which I believe is one of the greatest protectives under the sun. What does Q tell us about Karachi? Think for yourself. And what else? I can't hear you. Huh? Fear. Fear is the contagion. Okay. Let's keep going. Which I believe is one of the greatest protectives under the sun. She is in a far better position than her patients, who, as a rule, come from insanitary places, from the slums and dens, or dems, of our cities, and it is not, therefore, to be wondered at that the nurses should be able to resist the smallpox. Even in the time of the plague, when vaccination was not dreamed of, it was remarked in all the old writings that the doctors and nurses rarely, if ever, caught the disease. Yes. In the times of the Black Death, say the um the plague masters, the ones with those beaks with full of the herbs and stuff, they usually lived in cleaner places, but when they went to go treat these people or see if they could help them or whatever, they were going into filthy places. Places, as our president calls them, shitholes. As they should rightly be called, shitholes. This is what gives rise to the left's screams, wails, moans, and groans for vaccination, for armed thugs to come into your house, snatch your children, and poke them with sheep's blood and aborted fetal cells and all manner of heavy metals and disgusting, god awful, satanic things, and to trespass upon their bloodstreams, their private bloodstreams. Okay? Inside your body is your private business. It is not up to Bill Gates. It is not up to Edward Jenner. It was never up to Edward Jenner, and it was never up to Bill Gates. It was never up to anyone. Okay? It's not even up to Trump. It's up to you. Okay? And you Democrats, you're selling your soul, but you can't sell mine. Much as you might want to. Now, even in the time of plague, when vaccination was not dreamed of, it was remarkable, and it was remarked in all the old writings that the doctors and nurses rarely if ever caught the disease. But it is not what the nurses but it is not that the nurses do not take it. Dr. Kahn of the Paris Small-pox Hospital said that in the hospitals he had no less than 200 nurses revaccinated under his own eyes, and yet out of that number, 15 took the smallpox and 1 of them died. Furthermore, he tells us that at the time, Bicêtre Hospital, spelled Bicetre Hospital, there were 40 medical attendants and apothecaries who never contracted smallpox at all, although they had neglected to be revaccinated. And he mentions, moreover, 40 Sisters of Mercy who were right in the very center of the hospital who refused to be revaccinated. And not one of them had smallpox. And that is where I will end this video for today, guys. We will pick up tomorrow at revaccination in the Army. Okay? Listen, guys. I tell you in other videos I've made before, I used to be a Democrat. I'm going to tell you today, my mom used to be top of her class. Okay, she used to go, I forgot which school she used to go to. She was going to nursing school. She was top of her class. The hospitals wanted her. And she came up against the brick wall of vaccination. And she had to make a choice. Am I going to trespass upon the bloodstreams of other parents' children while refusing to do it to my own child? Am I going to refuse to desecrate my family bloodline? Okay? When you put these things into your bloodstream, you are desecrating your genealogical history. Okay? Understand this. Okay? You pro-vaccines, you need to understand this because we understand this, okay? And as much as you might try to pile your fake science on top of Edward Jenner's true life story, I'm sorry, but God wins every time. Okay? You cannot have Christian values and understand vaccines and go to your doctor looking for a vaccine. You cannot be remotely Christian. Okay? You have to worship the devil. the enemy of humanity. Okay? You have to be Bill Gates's cheerleader. Okay? And if you are his cheerleader, then you are the problem. You are the enemy, and we've been fighting you for a long time. But we have another JFK on our side now, and this is not going to fly. Okay, we will leave this planet. We will leave this life before we allow you to desecrate our genealogical bloodlines. And with that, Patriots, always go with your gut. Signing out.